Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki Aniruddha ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sankirtan Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Govinatha Kunda Radha Kunda Giri ki Sri Vrindavan ki Samaya Parinavjaitam ki Sri Guru Chaitanya Chaitanya ki Sri Ganga Mai ki Jai, Sri Jamuna Mai ki Jai, Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Maharani ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Sri Prabhupada's President Book Distribution ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premananda. Oh, glories to the assembled. Oh, glories to the assembled. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Kvantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Today we're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 6, prescribed duties for mankind. Chapter 3, Yamaraj instructs his messengers. Surrender to Krishna is the real religion. This is the section. Text 23. Namo Charana Mahatyam.
Namo Charana Mahatyam.
Hare Pashyata Putrakaha.
Hare Pashyata Putrakaha.
Ajamilo Pinaiva. Mrityu Pashad Amuchyata. Namo Charana Mahatyam. Hare Pashyata Putrakaha. Ajamilo Pinaiva. Mrityu Pashad Amuchyata. Just see, Putrakaha. Oh, my dear servants, who are like my sons, Ajamilaha, Api, even Ajamil, who was considered greatly sinful, Jena, by the chanting of which, Eva, certainly, Mrityu Pasha, from the ropes of death, Amuchyata, was delivered. My dear servants, who are as good as my sons, just see how glorious is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Let me just put this down, it's a little bit too long. The greatly sinful Ajamil, not knowing that he was chanting the Lord's holy name, chanted only to call his son, not knowing that he was chanting the Lord's holy name. Nevertheless, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, he remembered Narayana, and thus he was immediately saved from the ropes of death. Well, there's a fair bit of liberty taken with that translation there. Prabhupada's giving a bit of background that's not strictly speaking in the word for word in the Sanskrit, but to make it clear, to make the point clear. Purport, there is no need, this is an interesting statement, there is no need to conduct research into the significance of the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Why? Why? The history of Ajamil is sufficient proof of the power of the Lord's holy name and the exalted position of a person who chants the holy name incessantly. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, Kalo nastiva, 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 gati Aniruddha. In this age of Kali, no one can perform all the ritualistic ceremonies for becoming liberated. That is extremely difficult. Therefore, all the Shastras and all the Acharyas have recommended that in this age one chant the holy name. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurum Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Tena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahiyam Dadati Svapatantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Kayate Garim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Atmarama. One of the characteristics of the Lord is that he's self-satisfied. Devotee also, Atmarama, self-satisfied, happy in themselves. Right? This is natural position of a devotee. Doesn't have to achieve anything. The nature of a devotee is that they like to serve, knowing that they're an instrument. This was Arjuna's realization. You know, when he saw the universal form, he could see all of the, well, even before that, he recognized Krishna as the source of everything and the ultimate truth. And he accepted Krishna as such. But after seeing the universal form, and Krishna explains how he can see everything in the creation in one place. Right? Everything in the creation in one place. And so had to be given transcendental eyes in which to see it, see that form. But of course, after seeing that form, Arjuna was petrified because he saw the demise of it, he saw the creation of everything, the intermittent stay, you know, the short period of time that we will stay in this material world, and then the destruction of everyone. And so could understand his part, his place in the whole scheme of things. And that he was to be an instrument, as Krishna points out in the Bhagavad Gita. The devotee is an instrument in the Lord's mission. You know, there is a purpose to life. It's not just it didn't just happen by chance. There's too many things that are a coincidence. You know, just for us to exist is a miracle. The chances of us just being born, there are just so many things that can go wrong between, you know, the interaction between a man and a woman. Of course, the demons, this is what Krishna also mentions in the Bhagavad Gita. The demons think that life is produced from sex. But, you know, that in and of itself is a miracle. That creation, and what to speak of the creation of, you know, the human, us in the human form, all of the other forms. Just a miracle that these things happen, that they take place. And so the devotees, and that it isn't just it didn't all happen because of an explosion, which is kind of, you know, it's kind of ridiculous. This notion that there was a big bang and we get the order. You know, we can predict to less than a moment the time in which the sun will rise in the morning and will set in the evening. We can predict that to, you know, so accurately. Today, 100 years in the future, 1,000 years, you know. So it is not a... So there's a plan. There's a plan. And of course, Prabhupada mentions the purpose of life is to understand what our part is in the overall scheme of things. To understand our personality. And to understand the personality of Godhead, the person, God, with whom we all have a relationship. And this is the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita, beauty of the Bhagavatam, that in these literatures we get a very clear analysis, and it has its own internal, you know, consistency, fluidity, right? And consistency of how the universe is structured. And how the universe is structured around the spiritual aspects, the spiritual identity, the original spiritual identity that we all have. This is, like Prabhupada says in it, there is much in the Bhagavad Gita that you'll find in other literatures, spiritual literature. But there's also information that you will not find anywhere else. Clearly. 7th chapter, 13th chapter, description of the Kshetra, the field of activities, the knower of the field, the Sankhya philosophy, where, in the 7th chapter, is it the 7th or the 8th, we get a description. What is it? A description of these material elements. 7th chapter, right? Bhumira po nalo vayu kammano buddhareva cha. Right? We get a description of the basic material elements. And in the 13th chapter, we get an expansion of that information. Prabhupada mentions this in the purport of Bhumira po nalo vayu. How these gross material elements then relate to the senses and the sense objects that make up our experience in working in the material world. Right? Very clear delineation. Here are the material elements, here are the objects of the senses, here are the senses. And of course the senses and the mind, right? Bhumir, what is it? Kammano buddhir eva cha. Ahankara. These gross and subtle elements that make up the material energy and how they then provide a vehicle for us and a personality for us. We originally had personality because that's the nature of the spirit being. But that personality is covered over by the material elements, but it still comes out we come out as a person. An active person. Very active. Prabhupada makes a point, one of the purports, how is it that, after death we're going to be inactive when throughout our lives we're so active? Right? And then all of a sudden we stop being. This doesn't make sense. And why the internal logic of the whole presentation of the Bhagavad Gita and the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam just makes so much more sense. Because it's a very systematic description of how we're entangled, we're spirit beings in the material world, if you like. We're and the challenge is we're of it, but we're not of it. Right? Achincha Bheda Abheda Tattva. We're part of the material world, stuck in it, but we're not of it. We aspire for so much more than what we get in the material creation. So, to know one's purpose is the purpose of life, to know what the purpose is. It is not haphazard, it is not random, it is very, very deliberate. And of course, that then creates a responsibility which we don't necessarily. We prefer everything to be random so we can do whatever we like. We like this idea of randomness because it means, forget about it, just do what you like. What was that song? I think it was Badfinger. Hare Krishna. Do what you want to be what you want to be, yeah. This is the philosophy. Do what you want to do, be what you want to be, yeah. It's pretty deep, right? But basically, it's passion, right? If you get an inspiration from a mental inspiration, an urge, and you just feel like doing it, and it makes you feel good, just do it. Of course, that's, that is irresponsible. And one of the reasons why we don't like the Supreme Personality of Godhead is because he's going to tell us what to do. Now, what do we have here? We have a very interesting, and isn't it interesting, in the Bhagavatam here, it's very nice to look at the work that the devotees have done in the table of contents, right? Because in the table of contents, if you want to know what the basic point is in that section, then it's all here. If you're short of something to say in class, Look at the table of contents. You'll get a hint. And so what is it here? Surrender to Krishna is the real religion. Right? 162, page 162. And then interestingly, 169, which is what we're leading up to. We're on page 168. 169, chanting is always beneficial. And Yamaraj is talking to his sons. Interestingly here, they're his servants, but how does he refer to them? Putrakaha. Pasyata putrakaha. Just see my sons. Right? Very important statement. Nam ucharana mahatmyam. Look at the glories. Mahatmya means the glories. And nama, the holy name. Ucharana, pronouncing. Right? Just saying. Not regularly chanting. And as Prabhupada points out in the translation, he wasn't even chanting Narayan's name to call out to Narayan, he was chanting Narayan's name to call out to his son. Right? So, what's that called? What kind of chanting is that called? If you're inattentive. So it's almost offensive chanting, right? Almost, because, what's our 10th offence? To not have faith, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names, even after hearing so many instructions on this matter, right? To be inattentive whilst chanting effectively. So, Ajamil didn't know, that he wasn't, or so he might have known, but he wasn't consciously aware of it. But still, look at the benefit that he got from, from this chanting the name of Narayan. So Yamaraj is saying, Putraka, my sons, my servants, which shows how much affection we should have for our dependents, right? We should treat our dependents as if they're like our children. Interesting. But just see the casual chanting, the pronunciation, ucharana, it's like, ucharana nam. What happens? Right? What happened? When you chant the holy name of the Lord, mrityu pashat amuchyata, the ropes of death. He was delivered from the ropes of death by the chanting. So, a devotee is very satisfied. We can be satisfied and happy in chanting Hare Krishna. Knowing that we don't have to meet Yamaraj's servants. Right? But, despite the fact that Krishna is Atmarama and his devotees are Atmarama, they're satisfied, we're happy. Whew, I don't have to meet Yamaraj. Huh? Despite the fact that I'm also sinful, I don't have to meet Yamaraj. But still, a devotee, whilst being happy, right? Devotees are happy at the same time, and Lord Chaitanya, Krishna is Satchit Ananda, yet he has a concern. He has a worry. Now, why does the Supreme Personality of Godhead have a worry? Huh? Why do what is it? The devotee is up high, right? Without fear, without concern, I guess. Right? But still, Krishna and the devotees have worries. They have concerns. But what is their concern? Lord Chaitanya was asking Haridas Thakur, I have a worry. How will the fallen, the Malechas and the Yavanas, these are considered fallen in Vedic culture, how will they be delivered? Right? So even though a devotee is Atmarana and self-satisfied, and Krishna himself is self-satisfied, at the same time, he has a worry. He's concerned. He's concerned about others, not concerned about himself so much, because he knows, I'm going to be looked after. Krishna will look after me. But what about the others? And now, according to Vedic culture, we can just forget about these guys, right? They're just fallen, malechas, yavanas, sinful people, asuras. Why worry? Right? Why worry? But, interesting, just as Yamaraj is concerned for his dependents, Krishna is also concerned about everybody's well-being, not just the devotees. Right? Not just the devotees. Because he likes the devotees. Konteya pratijani hina me bhakta pranasyati. Right? Devotee will never perish. But he's also concerned about the welfare of everyone. Right? Srila Prabhupada could have stayed in Vrindavan. His life was perfect. But he was, what was the impetus for him to leave the place where he was, perfectly situated, and he went to New York, suffering great inconvenience. Of course, life was a struggle in Vrindavan. The struggle was magnified by about 1,000 times, if not more, by his going to New York. But why did he do it? Because of the order of his guru, which ultimately was the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? The order of the instruction given to the Goswamis, right? Spiritual master, the order of the spiritual master. So Lord Chaitanya is asking, he's worried, he's deeply concerned. What about the Yavanas? And of course Haridas says, don't worry. And this is the natural reaction of a devotee to Krishna's worry or concern. Don't worry, I'll fix it. Right? But actually it's already fixed. By Lord Chaitanya's arrangement, actually it's already fixed. Right? This is why Lord Chaitanya is called Namo Mahavadanyaya, because he's actually given the solution. And what is the solution? Prabhupada mentions here. And this is the pop goes Hare Krishna. If anybody's got a problem, what do we say? Chant Hare Krishna. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, came for lunch, and he wanted me to give him some instructions, and I said, I can't really instruct you because I don't know you. And he wanted some advice. Because I was talking to another devotee the previous day, And he was telling me, you know, around here, everybody wants to tell you what to do. I said, yeah, Hare Krishnas are good at telling people what to do. That's what they like to do. He said, but I'm confused. I don't know what to do because there's so many people telling me what I should be doing. I don't know what to do. I said, well, you know, Prabhupada said, everybody's servant is nobody's servant. Right? You can't do what everybody tells you to do. You've got to find somebody that you can trust. Right? Somebody who's experienced and somebody who knows you. But what's the point of giving somebody advice when it's actually not relevant to their situation? So before you give advice to somebody, you have to know them. Which is why Prabhupada recommends, and you know, the Shastra recommends, if we're to take on a guru, Siksha or Diksha or otherwise, we have to test them. Otherwise, how do you know? Everybody around here will tell you what to do, right? I used to be really confused because I'd have Yugatita would be telling me what to do, Havyadam would be telling me what to do, what's Sringadam? What's Sanganas? No, I've forgotten his name, which is not a bad thing. Oh, Mark. Yeah, Bhakta Mark, the pot washer. He used to tell me what to do. Or he used to come to me and he'd say, hey, you rude, what are we going to do? You know, so after a week of living in the temple, I was thinking, what's going on here? All these people telling me what to do. Anyway, one valid instruction. Forget all the others. Forget all the others. And I said to myself, look, I can't really tell you what to do because I don't know you well enough. But here's what I can recommend. Chant Hare Krishna. This is our one-size-fits-all problem solver, right? Chant Hare Krishna. And stay in the association of the devotees, but ignore about 99% of what you're told to do. Like one devotee asked me on Saturday night, the devotee asked me, I heard that you should, if you're not initiated, you shouldn't wear 3 strands of tulsi beads around your neck. And I said, yeah, I heard that too, but I'm not sure where that comes from or whether it was relevant. I said, can you do me a favour and wear 3 strands of tulsi beads for a week and then let me know what happens? Let's put it to the test. I told him, I said, one thing that I was told when I first started coming to the temple was that you have to scrape your tongue, right? You've got to clean your tongue. This is an important step in bhakti yoga. But not on a Kodasi. You don't do it on a Kodasi. Right? So I thought, oh, okay, I won't scrape my tongue on a Kodasi. I did that for many years. Then I mentioned one of my friends, oh, that's ridiculous. Where did that come from? What's that got to do with anything? All it means is you've got a dirty tongue on a Kodasi, you know. So I stopped. I stopped not scraping my tongue on the Kodasi. Now I've got a clean tongue every day. Instead of 2 days in a month, it's dirty. So, one valid instruction that we can give everybody that's good for everyone in all times, places and circumstances. Here. Because we can see, look at the potency of chanting Hare Krishna. And how Haridas Thakur explains to Lord Chaitanya. The Mlechas and the Yavanas call out, Haram, Haram, if something bad happens. Right? And even though the devotees, when they call out Ram's name with great attention and with devotion and love and dedication, and they know the potency of chanting the Lord's name, And even though there are those who chant but don't know the potency, and they're not even chanting the same, they're not chanting the name knowing that it's the name, it's something different. In their language it means something different. It means horrible, Hare means horrible. Still they get the benefit of chanting Ram's name. As we see that here in Narayan. With Ajahn. So this chanting of Hare Krishna and this distribution, right? So this was Lord Chaitanya's mission, was that in order to benefit everyone, even those who don't know what they're chanting or what they're hearing and its benefits, still by the liberal distribution of the holy name, this is the Sankirtan movement, then everybody is benefited. And you know, this really is our purpose. If we want to know what our purpose is in the Hare Krishna movement, if we want to know what the purpose of life is, it's to chant Hare Krishna. And of course, to chant Hare Krishna not in this inattentive or in this state of ignorance, but rather to come to the point of chanting Hare Krishna in a state of understanding, a state of knowledge. Right? This is a good part of our practice, is to learn how to chant Hare Krishna without offence, which is why we chant the 10 offences every day. Right, Prabhupada introduced this. So that we will learn, eventually we'll learn how to chant and get the full benefit, because that pure chanting of Hare Krishna brings us to the point of Krishna Prema, right? Bahu Jamma Kariyani Shravana Kirtan Tabutana Paya Krishna Pade Premadan. Right? The gift of prema can be achieved or received if we learn how to chant Hare Krishna. Right? And all of the other benefits of liberation are automatically achieved just by chanting Hare Krishna, even inattentively, or even with some offence. That's the potency of chanting Hare Krishna, very powerful. And of course, this is the methodology by which the Lord has created our good fortune. Our good fortune has been created by the chanting Hare Krishna. And in appreciation of that good fortune, and in being concerned about Lord Chaitanya's anxiety and Krishna's anxiety for the fallen souls, our mission is to give this chanting to everybody, which is the Sankirtan movement, the Sankirtan party, is to distribute the holy name liberally so that everybody, even if they're disqualified, even if they're the most fallen, the most sinful, it doesn't matter. They're still Krishna's parts and parcels, right? Mamai Vamsa Jiva Loke Jiva Buddha Sanatmaha. Manashastan Indriya Prakatisthan Kashati. And because there's that relationship, then Krishna sees everybody as his dependents, as his sons, effectively, right? Krishna says, I'm the seed-giving father. What is it? Aham bija, pita, pradha, something like that. I'm the seed-giving. So Krishna's the father. And, even if one's sons are not behaving properly, you know the story of the prodigal son, still the parent's concerned. Child's is left home and doesn't even contact, but the parents are still worried about them, still concerned. You know, a mother is always concerned about the welfare of her children, right? And wants to render service. We used to have this tussle with my mum all the time. She would want to cook for us. But, you know, because she was not a Paka Vaishnavi. we couldn't eat her cooking. But, you know, the maternal affection for her son was what prompted her to want to give and to do something. So we had to work out, you know, we eventually worked, Mum would do all the ironing. Right. When we would stay with my parents, Mum would get happiness out of, and you know, my mum has a particular way of folding socks, which my wife won't do. But Mum would always fold socks so such a way so that you could just pull the socks turn inside out, but with the foot of the sock is tucked in, right? So you can just pull, you pull the top of the sock on your foot, then you roll up the rest on it. It's an easy way to put your socks on, right? I haven't met anybody else who does socks like that. So, but my mum was happy to do the washing and the ironing. And she was also happy she would cut up. My wife would let her do the cut up. We had a cupboard at my parents' house. We had a cupboard where we kept all of our sushi pots and pans and everything. But it's affection. You know, you can't stop a mother's affection. And so, similarly, Krishna has affection for everybody, even if they're the most fallen. Because, you know, sometimes the devotees think, oh, you're out of it, you're fallen, you know, why should I have anything to do with you? But no, even if a person is fallen, Lord Chaitanya is concerned, Krishna is concerned. Because they're his putra, children, right? Sons and daughters. So, a devotee is concerned about easing the anxiety for everyone. Lord Chaitanya's anxiety is for the suffering condition, you know, what is it? Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kora What is it? Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatar. Yeah, you've come to. Your mission is to save the most fallen. Right? And this is, what is it? Narottam. Prayer. I'm the most fallen, save me. Right? But his mission is to, Tava Avatar is to, the cause, Hetu, right, is Patita Pavana, is to uplift everybody who's fallen. Right? Who's not fallen? In this day and age, who's not fallen? And we think we're so advanced, but actually, you know, just hop in the time travel capsule and go back a few years. Huh? Yeah. So, very interesting that Prabhupada mentions here, and this is Lord Chaitanya's mission, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama. So it's our mission in life to relieve Lord Chaitanya's and Krishna's anxiety for the welfare of everyone is to distribute the holy name, is to preach, right? Is to work together and distribute the holy name to everyone. Don't look at the fallen as, you know, people to be ignored or to be disregarded as fallen. Prabhupada said this was a fault of the Brahminical culture and why the Muslims became prominent, because the Muslims were converting people and the Brahmins wouldn't do anything to get them back. Huh? They were, oh no, now he's a lecture, he's fallen, oh, we can't associate with him. Right? And of course we're careful about our association. Right? But chanting Hare Krishna, distributing books, distributing prasadam for the benefit of everybody, that doesn't require a lot of association with fallen people. We do it in the association of the devotees. But really we should understand this, Krishna's mission and Lord Chaitanya's mission, especially in this day and age, is to help the fallen. Right? And of course that's how we make progress. That's actually how we make advancement. We make advancement by preaching. This is our yoga. Interesting, the yoga practice for Kali is Sankirtan. And it's not a yoga performed in isolation, right? It is Sankirtan. This is why the avatar is described as in what is it? Krishna Vanam Twista Krishnam Sango Pangashtra Parshadam. Right, so in the association of his weapons, what are his weapons? The holy name, books, ISKCON bullets, right? Gulab jamuns or samosas or whatever, cauliflower pakoras. If you can't beat somebody with a philosophical argument, you can beat them with one of Korma's cauliflower pakoras and his pineapple chutney. And Sango Panga Anga, right, was it his devotees or Parshadam, his associates. Right, so this yoga practice is not something where we go to the Himalayas and meditate by ourselves. But this yoga system is done with others, right? Which is the hardest part. The hardest part of being a member of the Hare Krishna movement is the fact that you have to work with others, right? And they don't always agree with they don't always think what you're thinking, but you have to work together, right? And it's very, and so this is it, this working together for the benefit of others. This is what we do. This is our mission. Right? And how do we do that? Liberally distribute the holy name. Liberally distribute books. And liberally distribute prasadam. This was Prabhupada's pretty much. And then give instructions to people that we know, right? Samsara dava navali. And how do we determine that? By understanding who's sincere. By their inquiry, This is how we determine. Samsara dava navali loka. Trinaya karanya ganapam praptasya kalyana gunanavasya mande gurus vicharanarabindam. We offer our obeisances to the gurus, who are an ocean of good qualities that they get from Krishna. And they alleviate other people's sufferings by giving good advice. You can't really give advice to somebody that you don't know. Other than you chant Hare Krishna, that's okay. But don't wear 3 strands of tulsi, don't clean your tongue on Ekadasi. All those details. Actually, that's not our business to instruct individuals personally as gurus. Right? This is what often devotees think, I've got to manage every aspect of another person's life. No! We're meant to train them so they manage their own lives. Right? If you want to manage everybody's life, that means you're just a power freak. Right? That's not what gurus do. Gurus empower their disciples to make their own decisions. And sometimes people make stupid decisions, so why should you do that for them? Right? Let people live their lives. So, if we think, oh, I'm a guru, I instruct everybody, that's just silly. That's not what we do. We train people. This is what the Bhagavad Gita is about. We train people. Read the Bhagavad Gita. Right? Read the Bhagavatam. So that you can work out what your mission is. Right? It's called self-realization. That's where we should be helping them. Helping them understand who they are. And that's really help them understand the science of self-realization. When people are chanting Hare Krishna, they'll work it out, because Krishna's in their heart. And he says, actually it's Krishna who reveals these things to people. Right? And maybe, if you're a very, very extraordinarily advanced person, right? You can maybe instruct people. But what's the benefit of telling somebody you're a peacock in Vrindavan? Doesn't even know it's not the body yet, for example. So, yeah, it's interesting. If we really want to benefit people, we give them the holy name. We give them the Shastra. Right? We give them the tools. And we may, if we have got to know somebody over a certain period of time, and they trust us, maybe we're in a position where we can advise people in some general basic principles of what they should do, which is basically, what's your varna, what's your ashram, what's your sadhana, what's the basics of being a devotee. But the details of people's lives, they have to make those decisions for themselves. Right? So, the Yamadutas are being instructed by Yamaraj, just see the benefit of chanting Hare Krishna. Even inattentively. Right? He cut the ropes of death and was free to then take up his spiritual life. And so, we, understanding the importance of chanting Hare Krishna, should distribute it widely and help people come to the point of self-realization so they can work out what their purpose also is in life. And our purpose in life is to help them come to that point of understanding who they are, what their relationship is with Krishna, and what they should do about it. Any comments or questions?
So sometimes some people come to the shop and
Shop.
they ask whether they can wear neck beads and eat meat. They eat meat, they ask, is it okay to wear neck beads?
Can they wear neck beads and eat meat? I think you can do that technically, yes, it is doable. Should they do it? Tell them no. No. Take your neck beads off when you're eating meat. Just advise them that whether you're wearing neck beads or not, you shouldn't eat meat. Try to avoid that. It's not auspicious. How does that sound? There's a general instruction you can give people: don't eat meat. But really, the positive is offer your food to Krishna. Right? That's the positive. If we want to give people a positive rather than a don't, offer your food to Krishna. And of course, if you're offering your food to Krishna, then that's automatically taken care of. Right? I used to have a friend and used to go to his place to talk about Krishna, but also we would do other things. And he had Jagannath, Balaram and Subhadra on his mantelpiece. Right? So, and they were sitting on a mat, which would hang over the side of the mantelpiece. So whenever we were doing things that we probably shouldn't have been doing, he would get the mat and he would just put it up and put it over the deities. As if Krishna didn't know what we were doing. So, I thought that's a bit silly, isn't it? But, it's interesting that I got introduced to Krishna consciousness by my dope smoking friends. So I found out about Krishna. It was from in fact, I used to go and buy dope for one of a Prabhupada disciple. And he used to have the Bhagavad Gita and everything. And it's mixed up, right? It's mixed up. But I used to see the Bhagavad Gita, on those stands. Yeah, and I thought, wow, that's really spiritual, I need to get one of those Bhagavad Gitas and get a stand. Because, I knew, obviously, you're supposed to read the Bhagavad Gita. And one might wonder, how come he's selling his friend's hatch at the same time he's got the Bhagavad Gita? It's just a mix-up. But, you know what Prabhupada gives that? What does he say? He says, you can take gold from a filthy place, and you can take advice from a fool. So, my friends were fools in many respects, but at the same time they were chanting Hare Krishna. And it was interesting. My friends used to tell me, you should chant 16 rounds and, go to the temple, go to Mangalati, follow the principles, And then after a while, Ajit and I were doing that, and then I realised, hey you guys, all the things that you told me to do, you're not doing it. And I am. What's going on here? So, I owe a debt to those friends of mine, because even though they weren't practicing strictly, they were telling me what Prabhupada had told everybody to do, and the instruction was potent. And I took it, we took it seriously, and we followed it. And even though they weren't following it, we got the benefit of following it. So, give the positive, and if somebody says, I'm eating meat, you say, well, probably not that good for you, whether you're wearing tulsi beads or not. The Yamadutas can tell the difference. Or so strictly speaking, those people who are chanting and committing offences still get the benefit. The positive benefits accrue to them. The negative activities might be a bit of a drag, they'll create a bit of drag, but eventually the good association of the devotees and the benefits will accrue, and gradually the unwanted things will be discarded. Gradually. Any other comments?
Say that on Hare now, a lot of people are listening to the holy names, but they might not be chanting. So what's the benefit for them?
They will chant in due course of time. Yeah, now remember, Krishna.
So
Have you ever heard, this experience. Driving down, summertime, everybody's got their car windows open and driving, and some people got their radios playing. And I remember one time I heard, the Rolling Stones, Can't Get No Satisfaction, which is a song I heard when I was a kid. Right? And that night I woke up, I got the blinking, it's called an earworm. In German they have a word for it, it's called an earworm. Right? So sometimes an earworm gets in your head. So that's what we were injecting, the Hare Krishna earworm. So one day, after hearing the Hare Krishna mantra often enough, they'll wake up at night and they'll be going, Hare Krishna, where did that come from? So that's called association, right? Yeah. We hear rock and roll music and we hear that, and maybe that's why one of the first behaviours of a devotee is Satsangacchara, because that we give up bad association when we're careful, because it could be so subtle. Right? So just give it time.
But it's just interesting how some song becomes like that in earworm, but Hare Krishna doesn't, all the weird chanting and
Oh, yes it does. Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah, it does. It does. I've often had dreams where I'm chanting Hare Krishna and getting into it, right? Or sometimes I'm leading, and but often just into chanting Hare Krishna. So it does. Kirtan is such an absorbing experience, and it gives such a spiritual, exhilaration that there's nothing else like it. There's actually nothing like chanting Hare Krishna. It's why the devotees are dancing and smiling, and why when a Harinam party comes down the street, then everybody else starts. They start tapping their feet and smiling, especially these days. In the 70s and the 80s, there would always be people, but these days, really, you see people, they're smiling. And the funny thing is, the funny situation, there'll be a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, and the child will just be standing there transfixed and kind of responding, and everybody will be looking at the kid and just laughing, because everybody appreciates. So, yeah. I often like to just hear a kirtan, sometimes, not always when I'm working, because, it also can be a distraction, but, for what you're doing. But, having a kirtan playing, and then I know at night, or just throughout the day, that tune that I was listening to, I'll just start singing it spontaneously. So that's the benefit of association. Any other comments or questions? Mahatmaji.
Thank you very much for a wonderful class.
Hare Krishna, thanks
and,
sir.
and as you said, Lord Krishna is also concerned about us.
Yeah?
That's why he comes for soul each and every day.
Yes, that's right, that's why he's with us. And of course why he sends the devotees.
That's right.
Yeah. The devotees, they're the Vishnu Dutas, they're the messengers of God.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, Mahaprabhu is teaching 3 main things: Nam Ruchi, Jeev Daya, and Vaishnava Seva.
Yes. Jiva Daya,
And
in this case, being merciful to others. Yeah. And to yourself. Okay, Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai.